Nunu from the Hartford County Student Wellness Center. Today I'm here to show you how to tie-dye a shirt using vegetable powders. Before we get started, I would like you to grab an adult to help you out. The materials you're going to need for this today are, of course, some plastic bags or newspapers. You're going to need some disposable gloves so our hands don't get messy. We're going to need some tongs so we can pick it up after we put the tie-dye in it. We're going to need our white shirt that we're tie-dyeing. We're going to need some rubber bands to make really cool designs. We're going to need a really big pot to fill some water in it. We're going to need some powdered dyes, of course, and we're going to use today some beet powder, and then we're going to use some spinach powder as well. And the last thing you're going to need is a cup of white vinegar. To get started with our tie-dyeing, we're going to first lay out our newspapers or trash bags kind of like this, just so you have a workstation. Kind of make up a design here. Feel free to look up things on the internet for ideas of what to tie-dye, because there's a lot of different designs. You can do a swirl, you can do donuts. Just be as creative as you want. I'm going to be very simple about it. I'm just gonna bunch it up a little bit and add rubber bands. And we're gonna go from there today. I'm just gonna add as many as I want, kind of scrunching it up and so I kind of just made up a design and put rubber bands to kind of tie it together. Hopefully it turns out great. So in order to tie-dye our shirts, first we're gonna put our gloves on because we don't want to get all this dye on our gloves and stain our hands. And we're gonna fill a pot of water. I did about 3/4. You just need about enough to submerge your t-shirt in it. And then you're gonna pick the color of the dye that you're gonna use. I decided to use the beetroot dye powder because I wanted mine to be a pink or red color. And then of course you're gonna need your vinegar, and then you're gonna need a 1 cup measuring cup. You got gloves on. We're gonna fill a pot of water. I did about 3/4. I thought that would be enough. You just need about enough to submerge your t-shirt in it. And then of course you're gonna pick the color of the dye you want it to be. I decided I wanted to do a pink or a red dye color, so I decided to use the beetroot powder. If you wanted to be a more green shirt, I would pick the spinach powder. And of course you're gonna need your vinegar, and I have measuring cups here to kind of measure out what I need. We're gonna measure out our dye powder now. I did about 3 tablespoons and I kind of just put it on this plate, but I would use a tablespoon or a 2 tablespoon measuring cup to kind of help you measure this out. And I'm just gonna add it to our water like so. Kind of get all that dye powder in there because that's what is gonna get our color. And we're gonna see, you see how red it is? And our next step is gonna be, of course, to measure out our white vinegar. We need about a cup of it, so I'm just going to measure this out for us. We're gonna add 1 cup of white vinegar to this. And then I would mix it all together, and then I'm gonna take this to the stove. So we're gonna make sure this gets to a boiling point. You're gonna see the water kind of bubbling over. After placing the pot on the stove, you should get it to a boiling point, kind of like what you see here, where the bubbles are boiling and there's steam. And I would next use the tongs to pick up the shirt and gently place it into the water. This is a place an adult's help would be very useful for you. And I would make sure the whole t-shirt is submerged. I would leave the shirt in the water until you see the water boiling once again, and also that you get the desired color you would like. The shirt's ready to take out of the water once you see it boiling again, kind of like you're seeing right now. After taking the shirt off of the heat, the next step is to run some cold water through it. I just place it in a container to help it easier for us and kind of let it run through until the shirt's about cool to touch. If it's still kind of feeling warm, I would let it run through the water a little bit more. Our next step is going to be to undo our rubber bands. And it's kind of like a surprise for us because we don't know what design's about to appear on here. This is kind of what mine turned out like today. It's a little striped, very minimal tie-dye. Mine was kind of pink. If you want yours to be a little more red, I would leave it into the boiling water for a little longer. Our next step is going to be letting it air dry overnight and just hang your shirt in a place that you're not going to touch it, and then it'll be ready to use after it's completely dry. Let us know in the comments below how your tie-dye turns out.